as Duncan Tree goes into this new realm of developing a mentoring coaching program for high school kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we want to share with them in the coaching aspect is why it's important to understand your emotions and to be as emotionally intelligent as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were sitting, let's say we're in a conference room with a group of high school students today, what advice would you give them from them not understanding your work and why it's important? What would you say?
I would first want to understand more about what they see and experience. It's funny, Ouida, because I have two high school kids right now who are in high school. And so they remind me all the time of how much I don't understand, or they forget their mom went through high school at some point, and probably some of the ups and downs are the same. But I also recognize there's so much evidence and research out there that says the mental health of teenagers is worse today than it was even 10, 15 years ago. So many more teenagers struggle with depression and anxiety than did even 5 years ago. I mean, Mark Brackett talks about this research all the time, about every time they publish a new year's worth of research, the struggle that teens and new college students face is really hard and very high in terms of stress, distress, anguish, depression, etc. So I would want to understand what they're seeing and how that lives in them before wanting to then talk about how recognizing that in ourselves is the first step. That if we can acknowledge when we feel that way and perhaps why we feel that way, if we can trace it back to a root cause, that's a very useful aspect of emotional intelligence. And I like to point out, there was a study that was done at UCLA in the early 2000s where they put arachnophobes in a room with a spider in a glass cage. And then they divided this group of arachnophobes into two groups. They randomly assigned half the group to be able to write down in a journal their feelings about being close to the spider. And the other randomly assigned group was asked to only make factual observations about their environment. And they found that after a certain period of time, those that were encouraged to write down how they felt, which were, feelings of fear and anxiety and disgust and et cetera, they were actually able to move closer to that glass cage than the other group.
Wow.
That there is something inherently regulating about even just acknowledging how we feel. So, Mark Brackett likes to say, we name it to tame it.
Yeah. So
the more I can acknowledge these strong feelings I'm having, even if they're so unpleasant and hard to understand, if I could put a word to it, that can start to help me find a little perspective about it and navigate it in a way that supports me and what I need.